We've invited Anna Sawinska for the special interview tonight. Anna is from Poland, and she's been living in Korea since 2002. She was one of the first 2 Poles selected by the Global Scholarship Program of a Korean company, which consisted of 2 years of study at Korea University and at least 2-year employment contract in Korea. Since her arrival, she's been trying to share her experience in Seoul with a wider audience through her blog. With all that experience, she has published 2 books about Korea in Polish, with an effort to invigorate the cultural exchange between the 2 countries. Thank you for coming in today, Anna. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
It's our pleasure here. We're always excited to hear people writing and sharing their cultural experiences and through every form of written media with sharing Korea with the world, basically. So.
Oh, that's what I do.
Oh, well, then you're perfect for the show.
I'm happy to hear that.
Now, you wrote 2 books about Korea, and both of them were written in Polish. Your first book is In Korea, a collection of essays. It's your autobiographical essay on your life in Korea. And this is from the period of 2003 till 2007. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you first arrived in 2002 as a student. How were you chosen as a candidate for the scholarship program?
I have no idea, to be honest. It was just an accident. Actually, I was finishing my thesis at the university.
Okay.
And I was just wondering what to do with my life. And I was just looking for different kind of opportunities, job opportunities.
Sure.
And I found this announcement of this scholarship online. And I applied just to get some experience of having this sort of interviews before the real thing.
Right.
And, I was just going from one stage to another, and one day a person called me and they told me, okay, can you pack your things in 2 weeks and go to Korea for 4 years?
You're going back through your calendar. What did I interview for,
exactly.
Right?
What did I do,
Wow.
So, this is what happened, and
Super
here
exciting.
I am.
That's great. And it's weird how serendipitous, the choices, random choices of life can take you, and what a fantastic story that is. So imagine that. A college student unsure of their future and wondering what to do. What was your thesis on, incidentally?
It was about the future of the European Union. I was supposed to be a diplomat.
Well, in a way you are, aren't you? Cultural liaison.
Yes, exactly. So it came out really perfect. Who would have known,
Yeah. Now, were you studying Korean at all at the time?
Not at all. Actually, my first connection with Korea was when I was at a scholarship in France. I met the first Asian ever. I lived with a Korean girl.
Wow.
So at that time, she sort of introduced me to Korean culture. She had her rice cooker and all kind of, the seasoning and kimchi and all that. And I found it fascinating. And basically at that time she told me, Anna, if you ever come to Seoul, I will buy you the rice cooker. And I would have never, even imagined that a few years later she actually would have bought me the rice cooker. She did.
Funny. Oh, how funny. I bet she was so happy to see you.
Oh, she was. But now she lives in Switzerland. Could you believe that?
That's one of those things that is probably really fulfilling for a lot of the Koreans that go and travel abroad. They're always trying to share their culture with other people. And there aren't a lot of, this is a very isolated peninsula in a way. And it's not really on the way to anywhere. You've got to come here intentionally. And so it's got to be really cool for her to see you, for her to have seen you come and really be able to experience her own culture.
I think she had a lot of fun. Yes.
Probably too much fun. Well, you've been recording your experiences in your blog for a long time. Did you ever plan on publishing them when you started posting, or was this just a way to exercise your experience?
I always loved writing, and I think that was one of the reasons why I started writing blog. Also to sort of keep in touch with my friends and family back in Korea. It was describing Korea to a wider public. So this is how it started. And at the beginning, my posts were kind of clumsy. I was still kind of looking for my own style and sort of how much to share and how much to sort of keep to myself,
Right.
And afterwards, the publishing company, they contacted me and they asked me, okay, why don't you write a book about Korea? We don't have anything like that on the Polish market.
Okay.
And I thought, oh my God, that's one of my dreams coming true.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah. So now, is this the publisher Flowers of the East? Is that the publisher that contacted you?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And they specialize in Korean literature and books on Korea. So they had found your blog in Polish and said, we need this to be repackaged and published in a traditional way. Because if you started blogging, was this back in 2003 then?
Yes, 2003.
This is how I'm always orient myself is I didn't even really have a computer until after I graduated from university in 2000. And here it is 2003, you're already blogging. I don't think I'd even heard that term until 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah. To be honest, that was actually the first time I heard about blogging.
Yeah.
You know, you have to realize that it's just 12 years ago and it makes me feel very old. But at that time, when I came to Korea, there was no smartphones.
Right.
Even like the color screen was something wow, you know, the flip phone. So it was really, really hard to find any information on Korea, like from the foreigners who actually lived here, be it in Polish, English, whatever the language.
Right.
And yes, it was very, very surprising for me. And that's why those beginnings were a little bit clumsy, and as you say, I had to repackage everything and sort of rethink my own writing at the time.
Yeah.
And the book is totally different from the post on the blog.
Right. So you kind of went back and re-edited after all the experience of doing all your blogging. You look back at your early blog posts and said, okay, I'm going to do this a little bit different way.
Exactly.
Okay, well, really cool. Well, in your book, you wrote that Korea is a country with highly addictive properties. Now, what are some of these addictive properties that you were writing about?
I've lived in Korea for, more than 12 years now.
Right.
And no day is boring. Like every day something new is happening to me. And it's always very kind of refreshing to me, you know. And I guess I have this kind of insatiable hunger, you know, for more and more, to experience more, to learn more. And Korea caters for that need a lot.
It does. It never closes.
You know that, right?
Right.
The second thing is that there are some things you get used to in Korea. Convenience, for example.
Yeah.
When you come back to Europe and you have to, register internet, you wait there for a month or something, right?
Isn't that the weirdest thing?
It is.
Whenever even going back to America, I feel like I'm going back in time.
Exactly.
It's like, you guys are doing it this way?
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying, like this convenience, safety, for example.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Sauna, jjimjilbang.
Yeah.
I love it. I cannot live without it, you know?
Well, again, you go back to where you come from, and the idea of participating in one of these communal bathhouses, that's not for the average person. That's for maybe some unnamed niche specialists out there.
I agree.
Right. And these are luxuries, daily luxuries that really make Korea a wonderful place to live. Now, how did the Polish people respond to you kind of bragging about this other culture that has all this convenience and all these wonderful things?
Of course, they envy a lot, but I don't only write about the pleasant things. You know, as you may know, living in Korea is not that easy, especially when you start working.
Yeah.
I was really kind of, for the first 2 years when I was studying, I was like really overwhelmed with Korea, but it was not really a real life. Only after I started working in a Korean corporation, I learned where Korea can really be. And
it's weird, right? Yeah. Your honeymoon period is over, and all of a sudden you understand everything. It's not like every day is different, right? So
exactly. So I write about those good things, but I don't try to make it too rosy. I also write what it means to actually be in Korea, what difficulties you would have to face if you come here. And I think people really appreciate those two sides of one coin.
Well, when you mentioned difficulties, what do you think was one of the biggest difficulties that you faced? I mean, I assume it's the language because you didn't study Korean, but...
Right. At the beginning, it was the language because, as I said, 12 years ago, you know, even if you went to a restaurant, there were no picture of food. You just had to point your finger, you know, just like that. And then, you know, some kind of live octopus came, right? And you had to eat it. So this kind of difficulties I had at the beginning. At this moment, it's more connected with my professional career. Because I'm a foreigner, and secondly, I'm a woman.
Right.
Which is very difficult in Korea, especially if you want to work for like Big Jaebol, the Korean conglomerate. I feel I'm kind of meeting this glass ceiling. Which in Korea is not really a glass ceiling. It's a permafrost, you know. You cannot just go through.
Right.
And it's a little bit frustrating.
Right. Well, and you're also, I mean, you've talked about you feeling like you're old, but you're not very old either. So you've got these three factors. I'm a good host, right?
You are.
So, well, I was wondering if we can get back into this book. The book was introduced at the Warsaw International Book Fair in 2012. Did you have the chance to meet some of your readers during this time?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I was invited to the Palace of Culture and Science, and I had a meeting with my readers, the blog readers who already knew my stories.
Okay.
And those who were interested in Korea generally. So, yes, we had a meeting. I talked a little bit about Korea. I did some video on Korea, and I I was even signing the books and things like that.
Did you tell them you'd buy them a rice cooker if they came and visited you?
No, there were too many of them.
Okay. Well, in your opinion, what aspect of your book attracted Polish readers the most?
I think, first of all, those are personal essays. So when you read it, you sort of like feel what person can come through when a person is thrown into this totally new world, and how the person changes over the years. Secondly, as I mentioned before, I tried to show both sides. So I showed the positive sides, what is really wonderful about Korea, but what kind of obstacles you have to meet.
Sure.
I think this kind of variety was very appealing to the public that mostly based their knowledge on, K-pop or drama or something like that. They learned something new, and that was my purpose.
Well, what's really interesting is when you're talking to people in 2012, they had access to K-pop and K-drama. When you were, 2002, 2003, you search for Seoul, South Korea, and what comes up is,
Korean War.
North Korea, right? You're like,
yes.
No, that was a long time ago. What's going on right now?
Right.
So, I think that it's a very exciting time to be an ambassador for Korea, and I kind of want to transition a little bit and talk about another personal book that you've published, and it's about relationships, right?
Yes.
And in the English translation is Hand in Hand with a Korean, but of course it's written in Polish. Is there a Korean translation available as well?
Unfortunately, not yet. I hope that sometime someone will contact me for that.
The listeners out there, we have some contacts. I was wondering if you would explain the meaning of the title of that book.
Well, Hand in Hand, like walking through life together. The book is actually about Polish-Korean couples, and I interviewed different couples about their life together.
Okay. Now, how many couples are we talking about? And is this couples that are, in Poland or in Korea? I know that there is a Polish population in Korea, but is there much of a Korean population in Poland? Does it go both ways?
Definitely in Korea, there are fewer Polish than Koreans in Poland.
Ah, okay.
Because there are a lot of companies, Korean companies back in Poland.
Right.
In Korea, we have, I think, around 200 people only.
Okay.
So coming back to the couples that I interviewed, some of them live in Poland, some in Korea. I even interviewed a gay couple.
Oh, wow.
Yes. There are 6 of them, including me. So I also interviewed me at the very end.
Okay.
Yes.
So if I can kind of get into this broader segment, just we're going to get back into this book because I'm really interested in how you went about collecting all these ideas. But when you talk about a community of 200 people in a city of 24 million in Greater Seoul, does it all of a sudden become a pretty tight-knit family of people? You kind of know everybody. Do you celebrate traditional Korean or traditional Polish holidays together?
Well, when you look at Korean societies abroad, they are much closer than Polish abroad.
Right.
Of course, we know each other, especially those people who live here for a long time. We keep in touch, but it's not like we have some kind of regular meetings or anything like that.
Okay.
It's rather kind of like on friendly basis. We meet sometimes.
Do you know the ambassador?
I do.
Okay, well, back to this book. Did you collaborate with your Korean husband when you were planning the interviews?
Not really.
You didn't?
I didn't, because he always supports me whatever I do. If I want to do pansori or whatever, he always does. But if it's in Polish, he just said, okay.
I'm guessing he does not speak Polish.
He doesn't.
He doesn't. Okay, very interesting. Now, the book shows both sides of Polish and Korean culture. I'm sure that Korean readers would find it very interesting. We talked about your last book. This book out there, it's got to be published into Korean, I'm thinking, right?
I hope so.
You hope so?
Yes.
All right. Well, as you write in Polish, your target readers are Poles who are interested in Korea and Korean culture. Now, before your book was published, were there other books that explained Korean culture based on personal experiences that were being published in Poland, or are you kind of the trailblazer in this field?
I don't think there were any books, not like that. There were just information online. There are a lot of blogs now, but I think that in my case, this kind of personal, very sort of sometimes maybe exhibitionist a little bit, kind of
really revealing.
Really revealing.
Okay.
Not really.
Okay.
So I think, well, I don't want to pretend to be the first, but
would Korean readers be shocked if they got a translation and saw is it too risque, do you think, for the Korean
I don't
sensibilities?
think so.
Or?
But maybe, as you said before, I'm a diplomat, right? So I also wrote it in a diplomatic way.
Good work.
I think it would be kind of helpful for Korean readers to kind of understand what a person feels being alone in such a different culture.
Yeah.
How it is to kind of get adjusted to this culture and, what one person has to deal with. I think in that case, it would kind of help to understand better foreigners, maybe.
Well, I don't think that you should limit the translation just to Korean then. I mean, I think a translation in English would be very appealing to a lot of people because Korea is a very tight-knit culture, tight-knit society, and even foreigners that spend lots of time in Korea always have the sensation of kind of being voyeurs, so to speak, in a world that is very interrelated, and in a way that can be good because we're not held to a lot of the strict social requirements, but in a way you kind of feel like you miss out on a little bit of something, don't you?
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Especially in professional life, as I said before.
Right, as you said. Well, it's interesting. I've talked to some Polish people before, and there is some similarity between Poland and Korea in that they're kind of wedged between these two mega powers of Germany and Russia and China and Japan. Now, is that sensibility, do you feel there's some kind of underdogness about the Poles that the Koreans can identify with and vice versa?
I believe so. Back in Poland, we often say that we have this kind of mentality of martyrs.
Yeah.
Because of the history, because of war, because of we were invaded and things like that. And I believe that on this level, we are very similar with Koreans because of the Japanese invasion, Chinese, etc. So in that case, I feel when I see Polish and Koreans meeting for the first time, they have a very it's a very comfortable conversation, they don't have to pretend anything, they are very straightforward. They like drinking together, of course, Polish and Koreans.
Although it's got to be a shock going from vodka to soju and vice versa, right? No, I think...
Well, the second vice versa is sort of more shocking because, Koreans, soju is much, weaker.
Diplomat.
I am.
It just takes more soju, right? So,
right.
No, it's definitely true. Is they both share a very robust living culture.
Yes.
And, I having not visited Poland myself, but meeting Poles that are from there seems to be a vitality that they can probably, last as long as some of the Koreans can into the evening.
Oh, you're a diplomat yourself.
I'm trying. I'm an American. I'm usually the one that gets in trouble, right? So I was wondering if you could talk about some other aspects of Korean culture that Polish readers could relate to besides maybe some of the insalubrious ones we've been mentioning. Is there something else that you really responded to besides maybe like the jjimjilbangs and the evening hours?
Well, I still think it has a lot of to do with history. And, when I, for example, ride a taxi, people ask me where I'm from. I'm saying I'm from Poland, and they know the Pope. They know Wałęsa, the democratic movement, and sort of trying to get the country out of the regime, and sort of rebuild it and how to rebuild it. So I think that on that level, we connect.
Yeah.
But also nowadays, Poland is looking into Korea as some kind of an example of how a country should proceed, how government should proceed, how economy should be directed in order to achieve success.
Well, it's one of those things where does Poland have the nationalism that you see in Korea as well? Like, how do you harness the energy of that martyrdom, perhaps, and get people to motivate and maybe, work a little harder, work on behalf of each other or something like that?
That's the difference. That's something that we don't have. In Korea, yes, there is this kind of ethnocentrism, I would call it like that.
Yeah.
But in Poland, we don't have it usually. I mean, of course, when there is a soccer game, yes, we show our patriotism and everything. But on daily basis, we sort of complain about Poland. We don't want to do things together, So the spirit of nation is, I think, much different.
Okay.
Definitely.
Well, I was kind of trying to goad you into talking about your interest in pansori. And so this is a little side note here and not necessarily on the topic of books, but I think it may be interesting to some of the listeners. I'm actually a big pansori fan myself. Oh. And I'm going to give a shout out to Janggun, my favorite pansori singer. And you participated in the Jeonju International Sori Festival and won popularity award there. Could you talk about that experience a little bit?
Right, that was last year.
Yeah.
Actually, 1 week ago, I came from another Jeonju festival.
Really?
I got third prize.
Third prize?
Yes.
Wow.
So I even beat one Korean, so I was like really shocked.
Wow.
Yes.
So are there songs that that you really gravitate towards in the genre? Like, what's your go-to song?
Last year I sang 사랑가. 사랑, 사랑. You know that one?
Okay.
And this year I sang a man's story again, 화초장.
Okay. So I don't know if I know it by name, but I probably know it by, I just have some audio
melody
tracks that I listen to.
Yeah.
Well, that's really fascinating. I was wondering, I'm not going to make you sing on the air, but
unless you do the drums.
No, I'm not. Oh, geez, I couldn't do that. But I'm curious, is this something else that you'd like to export back to Poland? Is this idea of some of this traditional music and traditional culture and maybe crossing the borders of beyond books and maybe doing some performance or bringing a troupe, etc.?
That would be really great, but I don't feel strong enough to actually do that. You know, like for example, Pansori. Okay, I got the third prize, but I'm not really. I don't feel really confident to spread my own ability in that terms back to Poland. I think I'd rather focus on writing, to be honest.
Well, it sounds like if we can get some translations of your book going in Korean and possibly in English, we can kind of push that career a little farther forward. Well, Anna, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our show right now. Would you tell the listeners where they can read more of your stories?
Well, I could give the site of Korei, tylko, that's the blog, but it's kind of hard to find, I guess, because it's in Polish. But if you type my name, Anna Sawinska, then I guess you can find it very easily, and there are descriptions of my books and everything, all the information.
Now, that's Anna with two N's, and the Sawinska, the V is actually a W. So
yes,
just for listeners that are interested, that's how you'd go about finding her online. Anna, do you have a song request that you would like us to play to close your interview?
Sure, The Riders on the Storm by The Doors.
Here it is. After all this great intercultural exchange, we're coming back to America. Okay, well, that's all we have for tonight, but tune in tomorrow at 6 for Sunday's edition of The Bookend. Anna, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us here.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Here is Anna Sawinska's request, Riders on the Storm by The Doors.